Aloha mai, this is Module 3B, Volcanoes and Akua Hawaiʻi. Today's recorded lecture is going to be a little bit shorter than Module 3A, but that is because you're going to have independent reading that corresponds to this lecture, and you'll be quizzed on this in Quiz 3B. So Module 3B, Volcanoes and Akua Hawaiʻi, will explore the question, who is Pele, through mo'olelo or stories and the encounter of her and the accounts of her ohana or family. As a part of this module, you'll read 2 oli or chants, including her huaka'i hele, her travels, and learn about the concept of hulihia, or change. This lecture will also discuss Ke'oni Helele, a violent eruption that killed warriors in Keowa's army. So if we look first at how Pele is defined in the Hawaiian dictionary, we see that Pele is defined as a lava flow, volcano, eruption, and also refers to things that are volcanic. It is named for the volcano goddess Pele. Some examples are A Pele, lava rock of any kind, Hu Kapele, lava pouring forth or to erupt, and Lua Pele, specifically the volcano. Other definitions that may or may not relate to volcanic activity include soft, swollen, fat, pounded or kneaded, soft as poi or dough, choice kaua'i tapa, a term qualifying a ko'i or an adze, and we will learn more about ko'i in future lectures, but they are made of a specific type of volcanic rock. And it also is similar to ku pele. And then finally, Pele also is the name for a bell. And any of you that have heard during Christmas, that song, Kani Kani Pele, Kani Kani Pele, that's jingle bells in Hawaiian. So next, we're gonna watch this video, Who is Pele? And I want you guys to copy this link shown here on this slide and watch it on YouTube. Kekuhi, shown here, will describe who Pele is. Kekuhi is a senior scholar. Her full name is Kekuhi Kanahele Keali'i Kanaka Ole o Ha'ililani. And she is the executive director of the ERTH Kanaka Ole Foundation. She is coordinator of I Ola Haloa, Title III, a federally funded educational program. And she's also an instructor in the Hawaiian Lifestyles program at Hawaii Community College. Kekuhi has also played a large role in more recently in natural resource management in Hawaii, and having these trainings for natural resource monitors where they start to think of aina and land and their work through a more holistic approach that is inclusive of culture and Hawaiian values. She is also the kumuhula of Halau o Kekuhi, which was founded by her grandmother, Edith Kanaka Ole, who was awarded the status of a living treasure in Hawaii in 1979 and is on a quarter as a part of the American Women Quarter Series. Kekuhi and her ohana's lineage can be traced to the very beginnings of hula, and they refer to themselves as being a part of the Pele clan. So they are ohana to Pele, or they are family to Pele. So again, follow this link, listen to Kekuhi and her ohana's perspective of who Pele is. I think it's most appropriate in this class when we talk about Pele to listen to people like Kekuhi who describe Pele as ohana or family. And again, watch this video because you will be quizzed on who is Pele. And the video is short. It's less than 10 minutes. Next, we're going to learn about Pele from Auntie Pualani Kanakaole Kanahele, and this is Kekuhi's mother. You can find this reading, Ka Honua Ola, in the resources section of our class on Laulima. The text is shown in Hawaiian and it's translated to English. Auntie Pua shares her interpretations of the oli as well. Auntie Pua reminds us that these oli are stories about our kupuna, our ancestors, and as such, they provide an ancestral connection for the people of Hawaii. These are not stories of strangers, these are stories of ohana, and as such deserve respect and instill a sense of pride. So again, make sure you can find this resource in the resources tab on Laulima. If you have any issues with downloading it or finding it, even with the YouTube links, please send me an email and be sure in the subject line to include our class's course number so I know that it's urgent. The first oli that you are going to read is considered a part of Pele's Huaka'i Hele. It describes Pele's trip to Hawaii and how she symbolically gives birth to the islands through volcanic eruptions. So you will read Ke ka'au a Pele I ha'awi I ka kama hoali'i ia ha'alele ana ia. On pages 21 to 28. Again, it's shown both in English as well as Hawaiian and will include Auntie Pua's interpretation of the oli. And quiz 2A will include questions related to this reading. So the Huaka'i Hele demonstrates various interpretations of Pele's trips and voyages to and across Hawaii. Through her Huaka'i, or her account of her trip, we learn about her role in the creation process of the Hawaiian archipelago. There are numerous versions of travel compositions, and they view her as, in this one, they view her as her role as a loving sister, a nostalgic daughter, a steersman, and a realist who bids farewell to bygone islands. They talk about her departure point and reasons for departure. There are many reasons. I was really interested in wanting you guys to read this specific ka'au or story of Pele because oftentimes you don't get that version of Pele. You don't get the version where she is a loving sister and a nostalgic daughter. So I think it'll be good for you guys to read this oli, learn about her trip, as well as get her ohana's perspective, a little deeper perspective of who she was as an akua. Here is a children's video about the mo'olelo or story of Pele. Pele here is represented, a little differently, but this video is also located on OEV TV's YouTube channel, so you can copy this link to watch it. And OEV TV is it's a Hawaiian-owned and operated media company. So this is great to get another perspective from other Hawaiians of who Pele is and what her voyage or her trip to Hawaii and across Hawaii was like. The next oli that you will read, it's located in the same document in the resources section, introduces the concept of hulihia. So hulihia means overturn, overthrown, upheaval, and complete change. Hulihia conjures up the many kinolau or body forms of Pele, her right and status as a deity, and her place among her contemporaries. Hulihia are eruptive phases composed to remember particular eruptions and to examine her moods, emotions, and power. The hyperbole and metaphors of these chants view Pele as a super goddess always engaged in war and the other forms of nature as her companions in war. So next you're going to read pages 84 to 91. And the oli here is named Hulihia Ke'au Kapapahonua o Konamoku. And I think it's really special that through all this time, from the beginning of time when Pele is said to help with the creation of the islands to now, we have these oli, or these chants, that document specific eruptions and describe the eruptions in great detail. So I hope you folks enjoy reading about this oli as well. And again, quiz 2B will review concepts of hulihia related to this oli. So be sure to read it and not skip it. We are going to wrap up today's lecture discussing Kioni Helelei, the Falling Sands, which is an archaeological feature located in Ka'u on the southern portion of Hawaii Island. In 1790, a dramatic eruption occurred at Kilauea and killed Keaua's warriors. The footprints of the warriors have been left in the sands of Ka'u. Kioni Helelei, which means the Falling Sands, is recognized by the National Register of Historic Places. We will discuss the cause of the eruption in more detail later. This is the story as it is shared on the National Park Service's website. In this archaeological feature, you folks can actually go and you can visit it if you ever come to Hawaii Island for travel, for school, for work, or even if you come to view the glow of the lava. So if you recall, Kamehameha is the ali'i, or chief, that united all of the Hawaiian Islands. Chief Keoua was a rival and a cousin to Kamehameha. The warriors who died in 1790 were supporters of a famous Hawaiian chief, of Keoua. The story goes that Kamehameha and Keoua had just completed a series of battles at places from Kohala, so the northern part of Hawaii Island, to Waimea and along the Hamakua, or the northeast coast. These battles were indecisive, but they were so bloody that both armies retreated, with Keoua heading for his home in the southern district of Ka'u. To get home, Keoua took a traditional trail that led from Hamakua to Ka'u through Ola'a and up to Lua o Pele, or Kilauea. When they reached Kilauea, Keoua directed his large group to camp overnight at the edge of the caldera. That night there was numerous earthquakes, and as you can recall, increased earthquake activity is a sign of growing unrest at a volcano. Keoua and his warriors feared they had somehow angered Pele. Perhaps sensing danger, the next morning Keoua split his warriors into 3 groups, sending them on to Ka'u separately. His decision proved to be a life-saving one. The first 2 groups of the warriors had not gone far when the earth started to convulse violently. Gases and superheated steam exploded, and the volcano followed by a huge dense cloud of ash, sand, and rocks that was ejected out of the crater and rained down for miles around. Not far from the caldera, the second group of warriors were caught in hurricane-force winds and a violent cloud of suffocating gases. Unable to escape, all of the warriors in the second group perished. Following soon behind, but luckily out of the zone of death, the third group of warriors came upon their dead comrades. They left behind the bodies of their fellow warriors, and in their wake the impressions of their footprints in the newly deposited wet ash. Here are some images of footprints at Kioni Helelei. You can see them here. You can see the direction that they were walking. Here are more footprints. You can make them out here, here. An increased image of the footprints. And if you ever come across these footprints, don't do this. Don't try to fit your foot or your shoes in the footprints. The kind of volcanic event that led to the ash deposit in the Ka'u Desert was the result of a phreatic and explosion. These explosions produce pyroclastic deposits, chiefly made out of volcanic ash. Recall from the previous module that pyroclasts refer to fragmental materials that are thrown into the air during a volcanic eruption and deposited. Kilauea has had numerous explosive eruptions in the past 1,200 years. The Keanakauqui ash deposit is the most widespread of these deposits and is an area closely surrounding the Kilauea caldera. Several eruptions contributed to the Keanakauqui formation, starting about AD 1500. The last major eruption related to this deposit was in 1790. This was the eruption that created the feature Keonehelele. Geologists believe that the Keanakauqui deposit was generated by a deep explosion between 500 and 700 meters below the ground surface. The floor of Halema'uma'u crater, the crater at the summit of Kilauea at this time, was so deep that it was below the water table. This allowed groundwater to seep in and form a lake. When magma erupted into the lake, there was a violent explosion of steam and gases. This resulted in the fragmentation of magma into tiny ash particles and drove fast-moving, very hot, ash-laden steam clouds out of the crater. This is called a pyroclastic surge. The ash traveled at a speed as great as 100 miles per hour. The explosions also threw out rocks called ejecta from already solidified lava flows inside the volcano. During the eruption, high dust clouds and particles mixing in the upper atmosphere produced rain. As the raindrops fell through the dust, accretionary lapilli were produced, and these small, hardened, round balls of ash are still evident today. The explosions were violent. The ash that fell in 1790 did not cause the death of the warriors. The group was likely overcome by the sudden, violent, and hot pyroclastic surge. The warriors were engulfed in a stream of hurricane-force winds composed of hot steam and sulfuric gases. The heat of the hot gases and entrapped air probably suffocated them and caused their death. The explosion is said to be so large and dramatic that the ash cloud produced could be seen on the other side of the island at Kauai. That's over 100 miles away. The eruption involved a dramatic explosion of hot gas, ash, and sand that rained down in the Ka'u Desert, which is currently within Hawaiian Volcanoes National Park. The thickness of the Keanakauqui deposit is shown here on this map. So I want you guys to take a closer look, hint for your quiz, at the numbers that are shown here on the map. Each number represents a place where the thickness of the deposit was noted or recorded. This thickness is shown in centimeters. And take a look at some of the values. So you can see that there are some places where it was only 10 centimeters. There were other places like here near the caldera, Halema'uma'u, where the thickness was as much as 900 centimeters, which is close to a meter. A meter is, which is close to a meter. Here is an image of the Keanakauqui tephra exposed in a rain gully near Kilauea crater, or Kilauea caldera. So if you can imagine, this was just how much ash and material has accumulated over time from these violent eruptions. In addition to interpreting historical deposits, much of what we know from these phreatic or explosive eruptions has been observed in modern times. Kilauea's explosive stage is not finished. Here is an image of a phreatic explosion from Halema'uma'u caldera in May of 1924. In this image, you see a geologist working near Halema'uma'u in an area littered with angular blocks thrown out during the 1924 explosions. And most recently in 2018, we had another close call where there was fear of a phreatic eruption. So on April 30th, the summit of Pu'u'o collapsed, an event that caused USGS scientists to say that it marked the end of the 35-year eruption or continuous eruption, which began first in 1983. 48 hours after Pu'u'o collapsed, the lava lake at the Kilauea summit started to drop significantly, which is shown here on the right. Magma started to drain away from the summit of the volcano, moving underground to the middle and lower east rift zone, and this was marked by a series of earthquakes. As the summit adjusted to the withdrawal of magma further down in the rift zone, it caused powerful earthquakes and collapse events. Every 28 hours on average, the ground within the summit caldera of Kilauea sank, and these collapses were followed by large airborne plumes of ash. The dramatic cycle continued through July 2018, and this really reshaped the summit landscape of Kilauea forever. From May through August, over 60,000 earthquakes shook the area. As a result of the activity from the 2018 eruption, Halemaʻumaʻu crater grew from 280 feet deep to about 1,600 feet deep, and the diameter more than doubled. When the magma drained from the summit of Kilauea, Halemaʻumaʻu crater collapsed nearly 1,600 feet, with the bottom of the crater falling below the water table. The water table slowly bounced back, filling the crater, creating what was referred to as a summit crater lake. So how big was it? Within the massive Halemaʻumaʻu crater, it can be hard to get a sense of the scale, like shown here in this image. However small it may look here, in fact, the lake was 160 feet deep, nearly the height of a 10-story building, and it was approximately 430 feet by 885 feet wide, with a volume of nearly 125 million gallons. There was concerns that another eruption at Halemaʻumaʻu at this time could be devastating, similarly to what Keowa's army encountered, as well as what was experienced here in the 1924 explosions. However, luckily there was not another eruption, and since then the water and the lava lake, not the lava lake, but the summit crater lake has subsided, and we're now seeing eruptions when they do occur at Kilauea, which is more similar to the gentle eruptions that are typical of a shield volcano. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up our lecture here, and just a reminder, now that you have completed this lecture 3B, you should all make sure that you complete watching the videos that are shown here in this lecture, as well as the readings, and take your quiz, your 3B quiz.